Hello, Finance fam. This is mainly for those who were not in class today on Tuesday, October 5th. Maybe if you're stuck in quarantine or for whatever other reason you were not here, I wanted to make sure you got what we did today, or at least had it available to you, okay? Because we did take the next step today and filed a tax return using a 1040. All right, we first spent some time analyzing this W-2. Okay, this is a W-2 for an individual named Lily Smith who works for Scoops Ice Cream. As you can see right there, this W-2 would have been sent to Lily sometime in January, the year after she earned all this money right here, okay, in order to file her tax return. So this is already filled out when it comes to you from your employer, and it has all your wage information and all, 5 different taxes. All right, this comes to you filled out. Remember, the W-4 is what you fill out before you start a job. You turn that into your employer. It helps them determine how much in taxes to take from you. But the W-2 then, after the year is over, it's sent to you from your employer, letting you know exactly how much money you made and exactly how much in taxes was taken out of your paychecks. So this is the form everybody who works a standard part-time or full-time job, this is the form everybody will use to fill out a tax return. Today we are going to fill it out the old-fashioned way. Okay, though there is digital software available and there are professional tax preparers, I do think it's important to know how it all works out, how the numbers come together. And I think it'd be great if you were able to do this on your own, so then you wouldn't have to pay the money for a professional to help you out. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around. I do have the link to a fillable 1040. I will have that posted on Classroom. I also have this little reference chart posted, which is going to provide us with some extra information to help us fill out the 1040. Okay, there are many situations, many lines on the 1040 that we'll see very soon, many things that don't apply to you guys and even myself right now. There's many kind of advanced situations that just don't apply to us as individuals. So for a lot of lines on the 1040, we will be filling in a zero, meaning $0, zero taxes. All right, and that's what this helps us out with. If there's something we're unsure of, we can take a look at this and it will lead us in the right direction. Okay, there are also a couple things on the W-2, of course, that we'll need as well. So the W-2 is posted as an extra resource. Again, that's Lily M. Smith's W-2. This reference chart is posted as an extra resource. There is a tax table that's posted as an extra resource. And okay, maybe that's it for now. So I'm going to turn this around. Okay, please do your best to follow along with me. It would probably be a good idea to open up that fillable 1040 link and do your best to fill that in as I go through this as well. So hopefully we can see this okay. All right, we will have more practice with this the next few classes, working with different individuals. Okay, first of all, first thing on the top of this 1040 is our filing status. Okay, we are taking the role of Lily Smith, so she is going to be single. So we want to first mark that first box. We're also going to keep in mind, we don't need it right now, but we should know that Lily is 17 and lives with her parents. Okay, so first name, middle initial. You can find that right in this box labeled E. That is Lily M for her first middle initial. Smith will be her last name. So Lily M. Smith. Social Security number, which is next to her last name, can also be found at the top of the W-2 for Lily. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, it would be relatively easy to steal her identity, but we're not going to do that. All right, the next line says, if joint return, spouse's first name. But Lily is single, so she is certainly not filing jointly. She's not filing with anybody. Okay, this is her single individual return. Her home address, okay, notice it says number and street. That is also on the W-2 right under her name. That is 215 First Street. And guys, if at any time you need to pause this, take a look at the documents on your own computer or Chromebook, please do. Okay, I know this is not ideal, but I want you guys to understand as best as you can how to do this. City, town, or post office. She lives in Indianapolis. Okay, be careful with the spelling. That is important, especially on an official document like this. The state is capital I, capital N for Indiana, and the zip code is 46205. Okay, no foreign country name or province, postal code. The next line, though, has to do with virtual currency. Okay, especially today's age with Bitcoin and other things like that, this is something they have to inquire about. And if you weren't sure here, this is the first thing you can see. It's the first thing that's on this reference sheet. It says virtual currency. We're going to say no. And that's asking at any time during the year, did you receive, sell, send, exchange, or otherwise acquire any financial interest in any virtual currency? And again, the answer is no. For the standard deduction, this is the first time this comes into play here. This is asking whether or not someone can claim you, as in Lily, as a dependent, or your spouse as a dependent. Well, we don't have a spouse, so we don't have to worry about that. But I did say that Lily is 17, lives with her parents, so that would definitely qualify her as a dependent. She would be able to be claimed as a dependent. She's under 19, still lives at home. Okay, nothing here about age or blindness. She's not that old. She's not blind. She is a dependent, like we just said, but she does not have any dependents of her own. So we leave this whole section blank. Which brings us down to the actual worksheet area or section. Okay, and I do think this is really like a worksheet. Okay, a lot of things that fill in, a lot of lines that work together. And it is really nice. A lot of these lines also tell us exactly what to do there. All right, so line 1, starting us off here. Most important, it says wages, salaries, tips, attached form W-2. So that does come directly from Lily's W-2. Okay, that's box 1. Again, probably the most important here, because if you didn't have any wages, you wouldn't have any taxes, and you certainly wouldn't have a W-2. So box 1, just want to clarify, I know it's not on there, but that's your gross wages, your gross earnings. So this is pre-tax, before any taxes are taken out. So $14,450 is the amount of Lily's wages for this past year. That's how much she earned. All right, for 2B through 8, these things are a little unknown to us right now. Some of them are even unknown to me. Tax-exempt interest, qualified dividends, IRA distributions, that's a retirement account, pensions, also retirement, Social Security, you would get later on in life, capital gain, other income from Schedule 1. Okay, all of these, which I said we're most likely unsure about, again, that is where that reference page would come into play. We have lines 2A through 8, tells us to assume $0 for each value. Okay, and that is something you should fill in. Okay, even though 0 is really just a placeholder and it means there's nothing there, we should fill all of those in just to make sure. Just to make sure we have everything accounted for. Okay, so all the boxes here, 2A through 6A, then 2B through 6B, as well as 7 and 8 should all be zeros. Then right next to this says, this is related to the capital gain for box 7, line 7. It says, attach Schedule D if required. If not required, check here. So I'm going to check that to say Schedule D is not required. And line 9 very kindly tells us to add lines 1, 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B, 6B, 7, and 8. This is going to be your total income. Okay, that means that all of these lines, if we had anything there, those would all add to our income, add to our gross wages. But since those are all zero, anytime we add 0 to an amount we already have, we're still going to have that same amount. So 14,450 goes on that line as well. All right, 10A, B, and C all have to deal with adjustments to our income, and something that could potentially cause an adjustment would be charitable contributions. But again, we're kind of sticking with the basic situations here. And if you look once again on that reference sheet, it says lines 10A through C. We have no adjustments. We could put 0 on those lines as well. All right, line 11 says to subtract line 10C from line 9. So we would take 14,450 minus 0. That's going to give us that same amount once again. Line 12 says our standard deduction. So here comes that number. That number that we use to determine if an individual would be legally required to file taxes or not. Okay, line 12, looking at my reference sheet here. First it says determine if the individual is or is not a dependent, which we already decided Lily is. So then we see if you are a dependent and line 1 is greater than 12,550, that is the amount we enter. Okay, that standard deduction amount. All right, and since Lily's line 1 is more than that, it was 14,450, we're going to enter the standard deduction amount on line 12. Oops. Make sure I got that right. Remember, it's all about accuracy on these things. All right, so we've got her adjusted gross income in line 11, her standard deduction in line 12. Line 13 has to do with qualified business income deduction. Well, she does not have a qualified business. And again, the reference sheet tells us to put 0 there. All right, lines 14, once again, kindly tells us to add lines 12 and 13. So these two added together, we still have that standard deduction amount. 15. Okay, this is where we start leading up to that final event of determining if we get a refund or if we owe more money. This is going to be her taxable income. And the way we figure that out is to take line 14, that standard deduction, and subtract it from line 11. Right? Remember, line 11 was her total income. This is her income. This is her standard deduction. So to figure out her taxable income, which means how much of her earnings can actually be taxed by the federal government, we take this amount and take away the standard deduction. Subtracting those two numbers tells us that her taxable income is only $1,900. Okay, so just take a minute to let that sink in. Even though she earned $14,450 throughout the year, because of this standard deduction, only $1,900 of her total earnings is actually legally able to be taxed by the federal government. So that standard deduction really helps us out. Okay, it's for that reason that if you don't make at least this much, you technically don't have to pay federal income tax. Okay, because that would take you right down to zero here. All right, so her taxable income, it's only $1,900. All right, so now we flip over. Okay, we're about halfway there. The rest will start to fall into place. So based on that taxable income, we have to figure out how much then should she have paid in tax. All right, because she was taxed on that full amount. But now we know that she only should have been taxed on that $1,900. So this is where you have to look at the tax tables that, once again, I posted as a reference. Okay, let's see how this works here. You can see the 2020 tax table. All right, it gives a nice example. It says what their taxable income is for Mr. and Mrs. Brown. So they find the taxable income line that corresponds to that amount. Then they find the column for how they are filing, their filing status, and the amount shown where the taxable income line meets the filing status column. That is the tax they should enter in that line. That is technically how much tax they should have paid the federal government. All right, you can see the example over to the right. Okay, they made $25,300. So they again find that row that corresponds to that, if you can see my cursor. They're filing jointly, married filing jointly, so that's the second column next to it. So where that column meets that row, that tells you they should have paid $2,644 in tax. So that's what we're going to do now.
Good afternoon here, your afternoon.
So, as I was saying, following that example is exactly what we're going to do for Lily. All right, we know Lily's taxable income, the amount that she made that can actually be taxed, is $1,900. So that's a pretty low taxable income. So we are going to stay on this first page, even though there are many pages here, because your taxable income can be pretty high. So we're sticking to this first page. You can see there's 3 boxes here that we could be looking at. First one starts at 0. Second one starts at 1,000. Third one starts at 2,000. So we know 2,000 is over her taxable income. So we're going to be focused on this middle box here, this middle column. All right, so again, you can see it starts by at least but less than. So we need to find the row where 1,900 falls within. I'm going to scroll down. Let me know when you see it. All right, not there yet. We're at 1,600, 1,700, 1,800. Boom. 1,900. So according to the heading on the top of this column, this says if she made at least 1,900, but less than 1,925. This is how we know we're in the right column, because she made exactly 1,900. So we're in this column. All right, now there's 4 columns that follow. And you can see maybe they are all the same actually for this one. But this first column represents a single tax filer. The second one is married filing jointly, married filing separately, and then the head of household. So we want this first column because Lily is single. So this $191, that is what we're going to fill in on line 16 for her tax. Again, all based on her taxable income and her single filing status. So 191, remember that number. 191. 191. All right, that's what we fill in box 16. All right, so let's keep it moving here. Lines 17, 19, 20, and 23. Based on our reference chart here, for those 4 lines, we are to assume $0 for each value. 17, 19, 20, and 23. All right, we need to fill in 18, 21, 22. So line 18 says to add line 16 and 17. Okay, well, 191 plus 0 is 191. Line 21 says to add lines 19 and 20. 0 plus 0 is still 0. Line 22 tells us to subtract line 21 from line 18. So we take 191, take 0 away. That still leaves us with 191. And then line 24 says to add lines 22 and 23. And that is our total tax, or in this case, Lily's total tax that she should have paid. So now we've got box 25. Box 25 is all about federal income tax withheld. There's 3 different form lines: Form W-2, Form 1099, other forms. Well, the form that we are working with today is the Form W-2. And if you look at box 2, that is where it tells us our federal income tax that was withheld from our earnings. So that's going to go on line 25A, federal income tax from Form W-2. That's $1,080.50. All right, but we don't have a 1099. That would be from things like investments or possibly self-employed earnings. So that's going to get a 0. And other forms, we don't have any other forms. So line 25D tells us to add those previous 3 lines. So that will still give us that $1,080.50. Okay, to wrap this up, line 26, we're assuming no estimated tax payments. Same with lines 27 through 31. We're assuming 0 for each of those. All right, based on our basic situation here. Then lines 20, for line 32, it says to add these 5 lines. Well, that's easy. It's still 0. Then line 33, to figure out the total of our payments that went to the federal government, we add line 25D, 26, and 32. So once again, that is that $1,080.50. All right, guys, we did the bulk of the work now. We got to the point. Okay, this is what we've been building up towards. Now it's time to figure out if we get a refund or if we owe money. So the first line in the refund, line 34, says that if line 33 is more than line 24, we subtract line 24 from line 33. So 33 is $1,080.50. Line 24 is $191. So yes, indeed, line 33 is more than line 24. Right? Remember, this was our federal tax that was withheld. This figure was given to us on our W-2. This was the amount of tax we determined that we should have paid. All right, so from that, we can already see that we overpaid by quite a bit. So we're going to subtract 191 from 1,080.50. So we take 1,080.5 minus 191. That gives us an amount of $889.50. And you can see right there, it says this is the amount you overpaid. So Lily overpaid her taxes by quite a bit throughout the year. Okay, this is all extra money that would have gone to the federal government. Okay, what do they need her money for like that? Okay, this is what she overpaid, so she is due a refund. Line 35A tells us we can put in the amount of this line that we want refunded. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to ask for all of that back. So I'm going to put that full amount there and say, please give me my hard-earned money back. You don't deserve that. I do. So this amount should all be coming back to Lily from the federal government. And it's nice they allow you, if you want, to put your bank routing number and account number in so that you can get that refund directly deposited to your account. All right, since she doesn't owe anything, we can skip this part. We know she's getting a refund already. Right under that, it asks if we want to allow another person to discuss this with the IRS. I don't think that's necessary, so I'm going to say no. Then, of course, we need to sign it. Okay, it says, under penalties of perjury, I declare that I have examined this return and accompanying schedules and statements, and to the best of my knowledge and belief, they are true, correct, and complete. Okay, that's why it's so important to make sure you're doing this as accurately as you can. So I'm going to go ahead and sign Lily's name, if I remember how to do that. Lily M. Well, that. Lily M. Smith. And hopefully the date would be, how about March 15th, 2022? Right, hopefully it's before April 15th, so we know we're getting that off on time. We won't be given a penalty. All right, but that is a completed 1040 in all its glory. All right, there's a lot of steps on the way, along the way, but because we are individuals that don't have a lot of extra things going on right now, it makes it a little bit easier to manage. Okay, like I said, there are a lot of zeros that get filled in, a lot of things that don't apply to us right now. Okay, but some big things to pay attention to: that standard deduction taxable income amount, the tax amount, and then whether or not you get a refund or owe a little bit more. All right. So hope you guys did your best with that. If you could, on that 1040, and I'll explain this too on Classroom, when you have that 1040 filled in on that site as the fillable PDF, if you can please, let me make sure I'm saying this right. If you go to print it, you can save it as a PDF and it will have it all filled in. So please try to save that so that you can send it to me so I can see how you did with that. Okay, because there is more to come. We will be doing this with more individuals the next couple classes. So please do your best. Let me know if you have any questions for me.